Welcome to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, the podcast where honest conversation meets real evidence-based solutions for your pelvic health. I'm Sparrow, a second-generation Pilates teacher, educator and best-selling author. I'm here to help you understand your body better, move with confidence and finally get answers that make sense. Each week we'll bust myths, share insights from movement science and pelvic health research and give you practical steps you can actually use in your everyday life. And that's because pelvic health isn't just about exercises. It's about reconnecting with yourself, one breath, one choice, and one movement at a time. So let's get started. So in today's episode, we are continuing our pelvic organ prolapse series. So this is the second episode, and we're going to be talking about why the medical model doesn't work and what your proven alternatives are. Before we get into this topic today, I wanted to do a little Claire Shares. And in Claire Shares, it's just something that I'm reflecting on or something I think everybody needs to know about this week. And today, my share is that I've had a really annoying cold and cough. And those of you with any kind of pelvic floor thing going on, you know how challenging it is to have a cough or a cold. A sneeze or a cough is a nightmare. And what it really reminded me was, well, a few things actually. It got me thinking about how far I've come. It got me thinking about just the skill set that we have. If there's a problem with coughing, I can actually solve that. So over the course of the years, people have asked me, I've got a cough, what can I do? And there's the in the moment what you can do. And then there's also the preparation so that if you have a cough, you are stronger and more connected and coordinated to manage it. And that's what we do inside the Pelvic Health membership. But for a immediate situation of having a cough or a sneeze, the ideal would be that you can sit up or stand up, that you're not lying down. If you're lying down, roll onto your side, tuck into a ball, close your legs together, taking whatever action that you can take to be in a vertical position so it's more supportive or on your side so it's more supportive will really help your body to deal with that cough. One of the other basic things is blow your nose. If you've got a cold, let's not let the gunk go down the back so that it actually makes you cough in the first place. Drink warm fluids, all the obvious things that you can do that I know as a busy mom, you're not thinking, even when you're unwell, you're still taking care of everybody else. And actually, if you could just have a flask of hot water with you, if you could have some throat strepsils with you, the little things that you could do to actually prevent the cough as much as you can in the first place, this will see you in really good stead. But it's something I see so often is that we are not so good. I know I'm the same at prioritizing ourselves. You would 100% make your child do it, but when it comes to you, we're not always thinking about ourselves first. So yes, that cough just really got me thinking about all things coughing, sneezing and that kind of thing. And I think I'm getting over it now, as you know, it's been a week, so I'm pretty much there now. But yeah, I wanted to just share that little nugget with you. So let's get into our topic. Just a quick recap. We talked last time about what prolapse is. It is when an organ is displaced. And it is not because of weak muscles, it's because of the entire system not being in suspension. And we're going to talk a little bit more, or in balance, I should say, a little bit more about that today. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the medical model. What do I mean? What does that even mean to you, the medical model? Well, we are given guidelines. Wherever you are in the world, you're given guidelines to do strength-based exercises for pelvic organ prolapse. That entails squeezing your pelvic floor muscles, different amounts, different times of the day, fast and slow, different kind of levels of lift. That would be a traditional pelvic floor exercise, or Kegel. In the UK, it's often the squeezy app that people download and do squeezes. This would be a traditional exercise that's been recommended based on studies that have been done into pelvic organ prolapse and the treatment of pelvic organ prolapse. So that's the medical model, the studies and the treatment recommendation based on those studies. So we would think we're winning because there's some research and some studies being done. Unfortunately, there's very few, and the ones that have been done are done based on a belief that the only possible problem your pelvic floor could have to cause the prolapse is that the pelvic floor muscles themselves are weak. So all the studies do is they go, well, the cause must be weakness, so we will prescribe strengthening to those muscles in an isolated way. None of the studies consider your whole body, your case history of injuries, surgeries, birth history, any of that. They just go in with the assumption that your pelvic floor is weak, therefore if we strengthen it, it will make the prolapse better. Deep sigh. The thing is that those muscles can be so much more than weak, and they don't actually work alone in your body. So this measure of only one type of exercise is so utterly ludicrous. It just, like, last episode I talked about, things just making sense, and when I teach women, they so often say, well, this is just so logical, and when we talk about this traditional medical model, it's so illogical that you would assume and only test for. So that's the first part of it. The assumption is that the muscles are weak and that's what causes the prolapse, and therefore if we strengthen them. But there's nothing to found that on. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that. You get my point. The second part of it is, when they've done these studies, none of them actually create significant results doing the strength-based exercise. So we go in with this faulty assumption, then we do the exercises, and none of them show significant improvement, and none of them show any reduced need for onward surgery and more research. Like, they actually say, the Poppy trial says that more research needs to be done. I mean, it's bonkers, absolutely bonkers. All the studies, like the Poppy trial, for example, it's all freely available online. You can look it up. If you've got my book, you'll see the references in the back. And I think it's so challenging for us as women, because who's got time to go and read the actual research and try and work out what it's saying? It's like gobbledygook. I had to get help navigating my way through reading it. So it doesn't really help us. And that's where I want to bridge, I want to bridge that gap for you, that actually we need to consider body wide. So why then? So I want to go a little bit deeper. The evidence is there that even when they assume that it's strength that's needed and they do the strength exercises, it doesn't really make a significant improvement. Let's talk about, well, why is that? Why doesn't it work? So if the organ has moved, it's descended, it's moved somewhere, and you squeeze the muscles around it, just think about that for a second. When you squeeze a tube of toothpaste, what happens? Yeah, it comes out. The toothpaste comes out. It creates more pressure, and therefore it moves that thing. It moves the organ. So countless women, me included, countless women have come to me in despair because they've done these traditional exercises and it has made their prolapse symptoms worse. That is that it's so frustrating. The other reason that it doesn't work is that it doesn't look at the actual cause. It doesn't consider the actual reason why the prolapse is there in the first place. Why has that organ moved? Has the organ moved because there's reduced laxity in the body? Has the organ moved because the person has had a hip replacement and there's lots of scar tissue and tension pulling the organ? Has the person had a vaginal delivery where they've had an episiotomy and the scar tissue right in there in the perineum is pulling on the organ? It's so infuriating. We would never, anywhere else in the body, not look for what the cause is. So it makes no sense to me. It's just bonkers. So anyway, we have to consider the whole body, and that this way of looking at pelvic organ prolapse through the medical model, it doesn't consider the coordination of the muscles with the brain. So one of the things I think a lot about is weakness. So this it's bandied about all the time that the pelvic organ prolapse is caused by weak muscles. Okay, well, what does weakness actually mean? Weakness actually means that the signals are not working somehow. So it doesn't coordinate. Your pelvic floor doesn't coordinate when you need it to, when you want it to. So if your pelvic floor has nerve damage, scar tissue, or simply is tight, can't feel in the same way as healthy, flexible, juicy fluid muscles and tissues. It just literally can't. So we're bullying it, squeezing it, doing all of these things, but it doesn't know, it's not getting it. And the other reason that it doesn't work is because these are spontaneous muscles. Yes, they might need a little bit of help to re-coordinate when there's been scar tissue or injury or there's excess tension, but they're spontaneous. So why are we squeezing actively, furrowing our brow at the traffic lights, pulling and squeezing, when these are muscles, like I said at the beginning, that I need when I cough? I need to know that they're going to be there for me. It just is so ludicrous. So this is why it doesn't work. This is why we need to have another perspective. And that's where the whole body pelvic health method comes in. That's where the whole body pelvic health method is so different, because not only do I look at the whole body, I look at the whole person, like you as a person. For as many women as there are on the planet are variations on the theme woman. How your body has evolved over time, what you've done, the injuries you've sustained, the joys that you've lived in your body, all of it influence your pelvis, your pelvic organ prolapse, your pelvic floor function. The pelvic floor is named wrong for a start. It's not actually the floor of us, it's the center. You know, your pelvis and your pelvic floor is the center rather than a floor holding everything up. It's the center of you where everything passes through. If you imagine, if you stood with your arms out wide in a V shape and your legs down and out wide in a V shape, you make this kind of cross shape, and your center, your actual pelvis, your sacrum, your pelvic floor is right smack dab in the middle of that. Everything goes through there. Our ability to walk is because our sacrum has come up and balances. Our pelvic floor helps us balance there so our legs can move at either side. Whole body pelvic health understands that the cause of pelvic organ prolapse is due to an imbalance somewhere in that crisscross, that's somewhere in that cross, or in multiple places, not just in the pelvic floor itself. So you might have had a really serious shoulder injury, and the lack of movement through that shoulder and that arm coming down and influencing your pelvic floor could be causing or influencing your prolapse. You might have fallen when you were a wee child and broke your coccyx. Your pelvic floor muscles attach there. And if you've had scar tissue build up over time, it maybe makes you sit a little bit differently and you don't even know it, but that could be pulling on an organ and causing that prolapse. You might have had abdominal surgery, pelvic floor surgery, an episiotomy, a tear, hip replacement. You might have had a hernia repair. All of these things create a disruption in the balance. We are balancing all the time. We're not meant to be fixed or still. We're balancing and moving all the time. So if there's some knot or kink in the hose of our body, that can create the pull on an organ into a place it's not designed to rest. And we need to bring balance back, and our body will start to heal itself. The brain to pelvic floor connection will reestablish, and you'll have that all-important coordination back again. And it's the coordination that I think is so often confused with weakness. It's not a weakness, it's a lack or reduced amount of coordination. Oh my goodness. This is quite a lot to take on and understand, because the bias is so strong towards these muscles being weak and doing the traditional exercises. Ask yourself today, as a takeaway for this episode, what makes sense to you? This is the question that I ask all of the women that I work with. What makes sense to you? When you hear how your body actually works, that things are not held up by a floor below, but suspended. Your organs are literally suspended inside you, which means they can't drop out and fall on the floor, and that it means that you can work on the suspension system, improve that suspension system so that it brings the organs back up into place. Does that make sense to you? Or does it make sense to you to keep doing the squeezing and traditional exercises, that medical model that assumed that the only problem was weakness and only did assessments, trials, studies on that basis? You then get to choose, because it's a sad part of the pelvic organ prolapse story that I hear so often, is that women are dismissed, not given choice, that they're not fully informed. And I want you to be fully informed, and so that you can have a choice. And of course I'm biased because I've created a method that's worked for me and thousands of other women, but you still need to make that choice for you, what works for you, what you want to pursue. So that's where I'm going to leave you in this episode, with that takeaway to really ask yourself. And maybe you need to listen to this episode again. Maybe you need to go back and listen to the previous episode. Perhaps it's simply trying whole body pelvic health for yourself and feeling an embodied sensation of it. The places you can try whole body pelvic health are completely free. You can do it for 7 days. Our membership trial is free. You can reply to me on social media and just say trial, and you can do 7 days for free. You can be on the YouTube channel and dig into the resources there. If you have the book, Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, there's free, I call it the companion course, a little mini course in there that you can do for free. And if you haven't already signed up, you need to get yourself signed up to Prolapse Awareness Month, where I teach you in depth the exercises specific to each type of prolapse and how you can integrate just short, tiny little things into your everyday life. So thank you as always for tuning in to Hope for your pelvic floor. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe. This makes such a difference. Leaving a review, putting the little stars and comments, it makes a massive difference to our ability to reach more women who really need it and deserve this support. So for more, you can head to wholebodypelvichealth.co.uk to explore the membership, and you can ask for more from your pelvic floor. And I'll be here, your voice of hope, every step of the way. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Bye for now.